Well, here we go. Another season of PGA Tour Americas is here. And for much more on that, now joining us, good friend of the show, Scott Pritchard. Scott, how excited are you for another season of PGA Tour Americas?
I literally just got chills when you were saying that. Honestly, yeah, super excited. A lot of work behind the scenes to get the schedule pulled together. We did a big overhaul on the schedule, both in South America and up here in Canada, which we can talk about. But to answer your question, yes, very excited to kick off the season in Argentina.
Yeah, so give us a sense of this overhaul because it's what, the first 5 or 6 weeks is the Latin America swing. Am I right with that?
Yeah, so we have 6 events in Latin America, and we essentially, and this is a term that I was unfamiliar with being a North American, but they call Argentina, Brazil, that cluster the South Cone, which makes sense if you look at the map, right? And so the idea was we wanted to cluster events together that made it easier for travel, both for our staff and most importantly our players. And so we've got Argentina and Brazil together to start off the season. We're playing at the Rio Olympic course. We're playing in Cordoba, which in Argentina, which sorry, I'm a bit over the all over the map here. Pardon the pun. So Argentina, then Brazil, and then we do Ecuador and Peru together, and then that ties in with Mexico City, which is a new market for us, and then we conclude the Latin American swing in Colombia in Bogota. So, very excited for the new 2 events in Cordoba, which PGA Tour Latino America had played at that event, Abierto del Centro, it's called. Um, and then Mexico City at Club de Golf Mexico, which we played there back in 2013. So we're really excited to get back to Mexico City. We've got some great partners in Bupa and Scotiabank has come on board at that event as well. So very excited in particular those two, but there's obviously a lot to be excited about for the kickoff of the season.
Oh, there certainly is. And we'll get to some of the Canadians to keep our eyes on here as we move into the season. So that's the Latin America swing. How about the Canadian swing? Because there are a number of both new locations and new
Mhm.
events for this year, aren't there?
Yeah, so we endeavored to really overhaul the call it geographical um, elements of the tour in that if people pay attention to the tour in the last number of years, we've kind of gone around like we've gone out west and then we've come back east and then we've gone out west again. And so we really wanted to figure out a way to start in the east and finish in the west. And so we've been able to do that. And similar to Latin America, we've clustered events geographically that make sense. So we kick off the North American swing at the Explorer MB Open in New Brunswick at Mactaquac. And then we head over to Quebec for the Bromont Open. And then we have a week off, and then we do Commissioners Ottawa Open. Then we come to the Osprey Valley Open, and then the BioSteel Championship in Windsor. So call it that Ontario swing. And then we have another week off, and then we kick back in the prairies at the Manitoba Open, which are at a new golf course, Breezy Bend Country Club. We've got a 5-year rotation in Winnipeg, so we're moving it around the city to different facilities. So we're really excited about that. And then we go into Minnesota for the CRMC Championship, and then another week off, and then we conclude the season ATB Classic in Edmonton at Northern Bear. Then we head over to the Times Colonist Victoria Open in Victoria at Uplands, and then the Fortinet Cup Championship at Morgan Creek in Vancouver, which we're really excited about that. Fortinet, our main sponsor of the tour, has a large office. Their headquarters is in Vancouver, um, so they're really eager for us to establish an event in Vancouver that would be beneficial to their employees in particular, to come out and volunteer, engage with the sponsorship. And so having a partner like Morgan Creek come to the table and partner with us has been tremendous.
And you did the same thing last year when we were on the set together at the RBC Canadian Open. You just named every single event. There isn't a sheet of paper in front of you for those watching. There's no teleprompter there in front of you, Scotty. You
Yeah.
are very, very good, my man.
Thank
I
you,
have to
Noel.
commend you on
Thank you.
that.
It's my job. But I think it's the shirt. I was wearing the same sweater. I recalled it as soon as I got on the call. I was like, I think I wore the same shirt. So I think it's the shirt. So there you go.
Well, when we have you on for the RBC Canadian Open week, make sure you have that same shirt out again
Yeah,
because there will be another pop quiz coming. But, I'm glad you mentioned the Osprey Valley Open too, because this year it's at the Heathlands course.
hmm
And obviously, fans are very familiar with the North course, given what happened last year, Fortinet Cup Championship, given what's going to come this year with the RBC Canadian Open on the PGA Tour. How excited are you to be heading to the Heathlands course?
Yeah, the Heat. I mean, you can't go wrong on the property at TPC Toronto. I mean, all three courses are world class, and we felt very privileged to have the opportunity to play the Fortinet Cup Championship there last year. Um, a number of our PGA Tour rules officials actually came up and were looking at the event just to see in terms of setup and are there things that we can do to tweak the course before the RBC Canadian Open comes there. So that was exciting. And then for us to go, we've traditionally played the Osprey Valley Open on the Heathlands course. And so going back to that course is going to be, I think, a treat for our players. The fact that the new clubhouse over on the Heathlands side of the property will be completed. So we'll have more opportunities for our partners, more space for our partners. The event, the Osprey Valley Open, the team there does an amazing job. They host an executive women's day, and they've got a number of different programs that are happening in and around the tournament. So we're very like they're an amazing partner, and I know the players love the golf course, so it's gonna be great.
I'm certainly excited for that. And I've had this conversation with you on this show before. Well, one of my favorite things about doing what I do here with Golf Talk Canada is getting to speak to the winners of PGA Tour Americas the following week to learn their stories because we're all very familiar with the people, the guys and gals we see on television winning week in, week out. But these are the stars of tomorrow, which is awesome. And on that topic, who are some Canadians that fans should be keeping tabs on PGA Tour Americas as the season gets underway?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think going back to the interviewing the winners, which I think that's awesome as well. But if you look at um, some of the guys that you've interviewed over the course of our partnership, Joe Highsmith wins a couple weeks ago, certainly a guy on the show. So that I think, especially for Mark, being able to with his other job, seeing these guys and seeing their progression. For us, people ask me from time to time, what's the what's the best part of your job? And I think it's just the reward of seeing these guys go on and do well on the PGA Tour and just this small feeling of, I had a small role in helping them get to that ultimate goal of winning on the PGA Tour. And to tie it into the Canadian front, every Canadian that's ever played on the PGA Tour has started on this tour. And so this tour is, very important for the player's progression. In terms of this year, two names immediately come to mind. AJ Ewert, he won last year. He was the first Monday qualifier to win on this tour, which is a pretty cool little resume ad for him. And he had quite a amateur career. Played a collegiate golf at Barry University down here in Florida, which I'm here in Florida right now, and he came out and did not have any status. I think he was probably lost a bit of confidence, and then he came in Monday qualified and won, which really turned his season around, obviously. So I think AJ has some big expectations for himself this year. I think Joey Savoie is someone that has been right on the cusp of cracking into the top 10 on the Fortinet Cup points list at the end of the season, which is what the players are trying to do. Because if you finish in the top 10, you earn very good status on the Corn Ferry Tour. And that's, at the end of the Corn Ferry Tour season, you're going to get a PGA Tour card. And Matt Anderson, who finished second on the Fortinet Cup points list last year, is right in the mix now on the Corn Ferry Tour. He's had really good back-to-back weeks on the Corn Ferry Tour, and he's feeling very, very good. So, in terms of the up and coming Canadians, there's a couple of Canadians that are right on the cusp of cracking into the top 25 on the PGA Tour University rankings, which is our version of a NHL draft, if you will. Um, Ashton McCullough from Kingston and Hunter Thompson, both right on the precipice. So, I think there's a lot to look forward to as it relates to the Canadians. We're seeing obviously on the PGA Tour all the guys that are on the PGA Tour. I mean, I mean all of them. I mean, Ben Silverman's had some really good finishes, and he's got some swagger to him, which is great to see. Svenny is playing well. Obviously, Corey, so I think there's a lot to be excited for on the PGA Tour, but certainly Golf Canada and the national team, Derek Ingram, they've done a really good job at building the pipeline. And I think, as someone that sees these players come through our tour, again, not enough credit can be given to Golf Canada. I mean, Golf Canada sends coaches to every one of our events, and I'm in Latin America as well, to work with our players, the Canadian players. And that's a testament to, the foundation and the money that they've been able to raise to support Canadian golf through, individual donations and corporate partnerships. So, again, I think there's a lot to look forward to on the Canadian front.
There's so much to look forward to, and the future is bright. And I'm so glad you mentioned Matthew Anderson too. We had him on our show a couple times last year. I got to play golf with him late last year too, and that guy absolutely sends it. And it's great to
Oh,
see how he's playing this year on Corn Ferry Tour. Already rounds of 60 and 61, and it's early in the season. But to your point, he played on PGA Tour Americas last year. He excelled. He moved on to the Corn Ferry Tour as a result. So as we look to this season, what's the qualification process? How do players on PGA Tour Americas make their way to the Corn Ferry Tour at the end of the season for next year?
yeah, so the way it works is the first six events are really important for guys to have good finishes. So the top 60 players at the conclusion of the first six events in Latin America, they earn status automatically into the second segment, which is the 10 event swing. Um, but we also have qualifying schools that happen what I'll call mid-season. So after the first six events, and we have six Q schools in May. So it's an opportunity for players that may have missed a card at Q school in the fall and had nowhere to play in the spring. And it's also an opportunity for seniors at school that graduate in May, or when their golf season is concluded after NCAA regionals, or if they make it to the national championship. So those players then have an entry point as well. And that we did that by design. Our mantra internally is we're pro-competitive. We want the top players currently playing on our tour. And so there's multiple entry points for players if you're playing well to get into our tour, which I think is unique for us. But it's something that we really strongly believe in. Our mission is to identify and prepare and transition players. And you're seeing that, one of the stats. There's a couple really interesting stats that came about. One of them is if you look at PGA Tour Canada in 2023, when we played in Manitoba, there were zero players in the top 500 in the world. And then we merged the two tours, and in Winnipeg in 2024, there were eight players in the top 500 in the world in that field. And then the Fortinet Cup Championship, there were 10 players in the top 500 in the world. And I guess I'll throw another one out there is Johnny Kiefer, who was the Fortinet Cup champion. He earned a spot into the Napa Valley event the week after our event, and he finished 13th at that event in a PGA Tour event, right? So these guys they're ready to play. I've talked about it before, how, these young guys are coming in, no fear, like ready to go. And even Carl Phillips, who won last week in Puerto Rico, he played with us a couple of events last year as well, right? So uh, to see the progression and happening so quickly is amazing.
It certainly is, and we can't wait this year to interview the winners on PGA Tour America shortly after they get it done. And who knows, hopefully make their journey to the PGA Tour, and hopefully it's not too far away. Scotty, I can tell how much pride you have in what you do, in the players that have come through and the players that continue to come through. Congratulations on yet another season getting underway. And we'll talk to you again, definitely at the RBC Canadian Open. And I hope you have that shirt on again, too.
Thanks, Scully. Appreciate it.